Hey everyone. This video is going to go over the PowerPoint on Chapter 4, the third step in writing, which is in the coherence lesson in the Week 2 module. So hopefully you have already looked over the PowerPoint and watched the video for the first lesson in the Week 2 module on point and support. So we went over Chapter 3, which talks about the first and second steps in the writing process. So the first step was to make a point, and the second step is then support that point. So the third step here is all about organizing and connecting the details, right? So you have a good topic sentence, and all of the supporting sentences in the body of the paragraph relate back to that topic. Everything belongs. You've got solid supporting examples. They're specific. You've got enough of them. But maybe the paragraph still doesn't flow like it should. All the details in the paragraph need to cohere or stick together. You basically want to guide your reader through your train of thought. How did you get from your topic sentence to your first supporting reason and the details for that, and then move to the next one? How did you move from one thought to the next? If you don't create cohesion, then it's going to seem very choppy and like you're jumping from one idea to the next. And even though all the ideas fit under the topic sentence, it still doesn't allow the reader to understand your train of thought. So that's what we're talking about here in step 3, organizing and connecting the details to create cohesion. So there are 3 main ways that you can organize and connect those details. There are some common methods of organization we're going to look at. Then there are transition words, and then there are some other connecting words that you can use as well. So first thing we're going to look at are common methods of organization. So one really common method is what we call time order, and it literally means like, in a sequence, right? So we're going to use words like first this is done, next this, and then after that this, and so on. You're using those time words, transition words, those kind of flags that let us know we're going in order. You're going to be using those to help create the flow. There's also emphatic order, and this is really kind of like the order of importance, or save the best for last. So it means that you're going to start with your least interesting or your weakest reason, example. And then you're going to work your way down to the most interesting or the most important reasons and examples. So either one, very common, and which one you use is obviously going to depend on the topic of the paragraph. You're not always going to be able to use time order. You're going to have to go with emphatic order. And, it will come, that part should come pretty naturally once you think about it. But the work comes in making sure you've provided the signals that indicate the order that we're going in. Because you can write things in a sequential order, but if you're not giving us those signals, the first, next, after, finally, we're not really going to understand that it's step by step, or that you're taking us through a sequence in the paragraph. So you need those words. So we have addition words and time words. So addition words, you can add, like, you're basically adding on to a thought. You're connecting it. Some common addition words are one, to begin with, first, another, next, first of all, second, also, finally. So I have some examples here on slide 5. So we have A drinking problem can destroy a person's life. It can tear a family apart. I mean, I understand what you're trying to say, but it's kind of choppy, kind of jumpy. What about this? A drinking problem can destroy a person's life. In addition, it can tear a family apart. Now I know how those two thoughts are connected. You are adding on to the first thought with the second one. Or, one way to lose friends is always to talk and never to listen. A way to end friendships is to borrow money and never pay it back. Or, one way to lose friends is always to talk and never to listen. Another way to end friendships is to borrow money and never pay it back. Now I understand how your thoughts are connected, how you got from thought A to thought B. You're adding on, you're giving me more, right? But I need those signals, I need those words, those phrases to let me know that's how the thoughts are connected. Don't make me do that work. You need to have it there for me to understand. You can also look at the next slide, slide 6. We talk about time words. Every week, my uncle studies the food ads to see which stores have the best specials. He clips all the coupons. Okay, kind of, again, it's choppy. Or, every week, my uncle studies the food ads to see which stores have the best specials. Next, he clips all the coupons. Now I understand how we got from thought A to thought B. Or, Carmen took a very long shower. There was no hot water left for anyone in the house. Or, Carmen took a very long shower. After that, there was no hot water left for anyone in the house. The transition words there, those time words, after that, lets me understand the progression of thought better. So some common time words are the first, next, before, later, after, second, finally, then. We know those words, but use them. That's the key is, I don't think this is information that is new to us. It's just making the connection and making sure that we actually incorporate them in our writing. You have to think of yourself as a guide when you're writing. You are presenting information to your reader and you are inviting them in to your way of thinking. So you have to show us your way of thinking. We're not actually in your head, so we're not gonna automatically understand how you're getting from one idea to the next or how they're connected in your mind. You have to use the words to show us. You have to make the connections in the writing. We know how to do this. You just have to make sure you do it in the paragraphs. We do it when we talk. We do it when we have conversations and tell stories. We know all of this stuff. It's just making the bridge and doing it when you write as well. On slide 7, I give you a list, a little table there of some other kinds of transition words that you can use in the body of your paragraph. And depending on how the thoughts are connected. Are the thoughts connected because you're adding on to an idea? You're providing additional information? Or are the thoughts connected because you're actually making a comparison, right? Or are you contrasting? Are you simply providing emphasis? Or are you providing another example? Or are you summarizing something? So you don't have to memorize anything that's on that table of other kinds of transitions, but it is a tool to come back to if you're struggling with creating the cohesion in your paragraph. Like figure out, okay, how are these thoughts connected? How did I get from thought A to thought B? How are they related? And then if you can't figure out how to word it, maybe come back to this chart and figure out if any of these options would work for you. And you can find them on the internet too. You don't have to come back to this PowerPoint. If you looked up, transition words or transitions for cohesion, I'm sure you'd get a ton of results that you could use. And they'd probably have even more examples than what I have on this slide. This was just some of the most common ones that we use. But it's important that we take these expressions, we take these phrases and words that we use in everyday conversation and apply them in our writing as well. And that we use them to create the cohesion and guide our reader from one idea to the next. When you do that, you're also going to make sure that the paragraph makes sense from beginning to end. If you're able to connect the thoughts with transitions, then you know you've got everything in the right order. You know it makes sense to have everything organized the way you do. So that's a bonus of making sure that you use the transitions for cohesion. There are also some other things you can do to create cohesion to make your thoughts flow. You can use repeated words. Now, useless repetition is not a good thing in writing. However, certain types of repetition can create rhythm and can create a smooth flow to your writing. You can also use pronouns, and you want to use pronouns because that also helps you avoid the needless repetition, right? You don't want to keep saying the person's name over and over again. You have to use pronouns every once in a while. So instead of saying, Sam did this, and then Sam went here, and then Sam drove the car, and then Sam went to the store, and then Sam bought milk, you have to use those pronouns. Sam got in his car and went to the store. While he was there, he picked up some milk and eggs, right? We have to use the pronouns. And then you can also use synonyms. So if you are, talking about a situation and you've got this noun that, or this idea that you're talking about, and you keep having to refer to it, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I have said this word like 5 times in this paragraph. It's a little annoying. It's very repetitive. Use synonyms to help you get rid of that repetition, right? I want to show you an example of a paragraph, though, that I think a lot of us could relate to. On slide 9, we have a paragraph that has a good topic sentence, and the paragraph is focused. Everything in the paragraph belongs in that paragraph. It all relates to that topic sentence. However, everything's kind of out of order. It jumps around, and all the sentences are kind of disconnected, and it makes it a little harder for us to follow the writer's train of thought. But I think it's the kind of paragraph that shows up in our writing pretty often if we're not checking for coherence. So the paragraph says, the ancient Egyptians were masters of preserving dead people's bodies by making mummies of them. Right? Mummies several thousand years old have been discovered nearly intact. The skin, hair, teeth, fingernails, and toenails, and facial features of the mummies were evident. It is possible to diagnose the disease they suffered in life, such as smallpox, arthritis, and nutritional deficiencies. The process was remarkably effective. Sometimes apparent were the fatal afflictions of the dead people. A middle-aged king died from a blow to the head, and polio killed a child king. Mummification consisted of removing the internal organs, applying natural preservatives inside and out, and then wrapping the body in layers of bandages. Again, everything is focused. It all belongs in the paragraph. But there does not seem to be any rhyme or reason to how the thoughts were expressed, how they were organized. I get really confused when I get down to that last sentence, and they've been giving us all these examples of how effective mummification was, but then we end with how it works, what it consisted of, the process. And it's like, wait a minute, that it just doesn't feel like it belongs in that section of the paragraph. It doesn't seem right that that's how we're ending this paragraph, given everything that was talked about in the middle of the paragraph. So even just that one little section right there seems out of place. So how can we take all of this information and organize it in a more logical fashion? Well, on the next slide, we have the answer to that. So it's sort of been reorganized. We have some techniques that were used to create coherence. Anything that's in italics indicates a pronoun or a repeated or restated word. Bold, anything in bold indicates transition words. And then anything that's underlined indicates what we call parallel structure. We're going to learn a little bit more about parallel structure in one of the next modules. But a very easy example I can give you right now is, what if I said to you, last weekend I went swimming, hiking, and for a jog? Just doesn't seem right, right? Swimming, hiking, for a jog. What should that be at the end? Swimming, hiking, jogging, right? That's parallel structure. Uniform. So we're going to use that to create some coherence as well. So our new version of the paragraph says, the ancient Egyptians were masters of preserving dead people's bodies by making mummies of them. In short, mummification consisted of removing the internal organs, applying natural preservatives inside and out, and then wrapping the body in layers of bandages. It makes sense that we put that first, right after the topic sentence. If we're going to talk about how the Egyptians were masters of preserving dead people's bodies by making mummies of them, if we're going to include what the process consisted of, then that should be first, right? Okay, that was good. And the process was remarkably effective. Indeed, mummies several thousand years old have been discovered nearly intact. Their hair, skin, teeth, fingernails, and toenails and facial features are still evident. Their diseases in life, such as smallpox, arthritis, and nutritional deficiencies, are still diagnosable. Even their fatal afflictions are still apparent. A middle-aged king died from a blow on the head. A child king died from polio. Now, the layout of the paragraph is much more logical. It makes much more sense. It flows better. Everything's connected. Cohesion really made a difference, you know? It's not that I couldn't understand the paragraph in its original form. It's not that it was horrible. It just wasn't great. And now we've created cohesion, and I fully understand everything that the paragraph wanted me to understand. And I flowed right through it. You know, I didn't have to stop and get my bearings again. It took me right through from beginning to end. So cohesion is super important. So that's our third step in writing, is organizing and connecting those details, creating cohesion in the paragraph. You're going to use those transition words to help you do it. And you do have to sort of think to yourself logically, how should I organize the information of this paragraph? What should I put first? What should be in the middle? What should come at the end? You can think of, you know, does time order make sense here? Or is it really more of an emphatic order? Should I start with my least interesting or my weakest detail and move up to my strongest? And then once you know what order everything should go in, then use the transitions and the pronouns and the synonyms and the parallel structure and all of those other techniques to help create the cohesion, right? So it's not just about what's the best order, but then once you have it in the right order, creating the connections, guiding your reader through it. So that's what the third step is. We're going to be working on this as well in some homework assignments. If you have any questions about how to achieve coherence in your paragraphs, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, you guys are free to move on to the next item in the weekly module.